Good morning, friends. On behalf of US-India Business Summit, Global USA Business Forum, and Georgia Tech Center for Business Education and Research, Georgia Tech CIBER, I welcome you to our program of this morning. My name is Mgmt. I'm co-chair of the program. We've been working with Dr. John McIntyre and Jim Hoadley, Georgia Tech CIBER, for the last 13 years. We have a very strong representation today of the audience, and we would like to welcome and thank you all for joining us this morning from all over the world. And please stay tuned till the end. We also have our annual program coming on November 16th and 17th, 2022. Thank you for your support and participation. To all our sponsors, including Novelis Group, we really appreciate your continued support and participation. With this, I would like to request Dr. McIntyre to begin the session.
Thank you very much. Let me say a few words, if I may, about Georgia Tech. For us, being sustainable means much more than being green. It is embracing a transformative process where everybody is responsible for making the right choices, promoting health and human security. Georgia Tech has over 100 courses, instructional courses offered in 6 different colleges relating to sustainability. We are also, as a business school, the Scheller College of Business, ranking top 5 in sustainable education for the past 8 years in a row. I note in passing that we have 24 centers and institutes addressing sustainability issues from a range of disciplines. I give as an example, for those of you who are not familiar, the Anderson Center for Sustainable Business, the Climate and Energy Policy Lab, the Strategy and Energy Institute, the Brooks Byers Institute for Sustainable Business. I encourage you to come and visit Georgia Tech and get a grasp of the extent and the scope of our commitment to sustainability across the student body, the faculty, the research enterprise. It is my pleasure to chair the following, the first session titled Sustainability and Circular Economy, Present and Future Corporate Paradigms. And we are very pleased to be, to feature Novelis, one of the leading aluminum recycling, diversified aluminum recycling firm, indeed one of the world leaders, present in many countries in the world, and particularly in North America and the United States. I note in passing, by way of prefatory remarks, that circular economy is a model that has been in existence for a while now to eliminate waste, to maximize value of resources, and it has the potential of achieving the SDGs, particularly SDG number 9, industry innovation infrastructure, using innovation to really promote circularity, and other SDGs such as SDG 12, responsible production and consumption. On that note, let me introduce our 2 distinguished participants. Their bios are located in the package you have received, the bio profile. But first is Susan Lindsay-Walker, who is Vice President for Sustainability for Novelis. She leads the development and implementation of the company's global sustainable strategy and vision to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. We will hear more about this in a minute. Susan has a long and distinguished background. She was Chief Sustainability Officer with a company most of us have used at one point in time, UPS, headquartered in Atlanta. In this position, she was responsible for driving solutions to achieve sustainability goals. She also has experience with Brambles USA, the Kroger Company, and PetSmart. It's a pleasure to have you. She began her career as a civil engineer focused on land redevelopment. Susan, the floor is yours. Pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Dr. McIntyre. I appreciate it. You know, let's see, I'm going to project here. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of the program today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm joined with a colleague, a rock star in the research and development space, and we'll hear from Raj here in a moment, but I wanted to share a little bit about who we are as a business. And I have a short video that I'd like to share. And turn your volume up. We'd love to have you listen to this.
You may not have noticed it before, but highly recyclable, lightweight, and durable aluminium plays a big role in your life. From the exhilaration of the open road, to the refreshing taste of your favorite ice-cold drinks, the activities and places you enjoy. Novelis is there. Not notice our highly recyclable, lightweight, and durable materials every day. But every day, we're proud to manufacture sustainable aluminium that fuels your life and keeps you moving.
So hopefully you're reminded that aluminum is in your world every single day, and we are proud to manufacture low carbon sustainable aluminum. So I wanted to jump into sort of what our ambition is, and Dr. McIntyre shared that we do have some pretty ambitious goals, and we want to be the world's leading provider of low carbon sustainable aluminum solutions that advance our business, the industry, and society toward the benefits of a circular economy. And to do that, we have the big goal is carbon neutrality by 2050. And we have a line of sight to an interim goal of 30% reduction, absolute reduction in our footprint by 2026. So we are laser focused on how we are going to do that. You can see other goals that we have here: 10% reduction in water intensity, waste to 20% waste to landfill reduction, and 10% in energy intensity reduction by 2026. And we also have diversity and inclusion goal that focuses on increasing women in leadership roles by 2025, and then also a greater focus around technical roles by 2025. For today's presentation, I am going to focus on decarbonization within our industry and how we are going to reach that 30% goal. So Novelis has 5 key levers that we are focused on in order to meet this goal. And when you think about, within our own operations, certainly we have opportunities to reduce energy. Our biggest footprint is really around the remelting of the recycled aluminum that we get. It's because it's using natural gas. We use a lot of energy as well. And so we do have those goals that are going to help us reduce that piece of it. The second pillar is really around increasing recycling capacities and capabilities. And what that means is, building more recycling centers that have the ability to consume and process more and more aluminum scrap. And I'll share why recycling matters in a moment. From a capabilities perspective, it means having the technology and the equipment within our plants in order to process more types of scrap. The third pillar is around innovating with our customers new high recycling alloys. So you saw in the video that we serve many industries, and they all have high performance specifications that they need for their particular products. And so we work with them to try to incorporate as much recycled content into the alloys as possible. The fourth pillar is around maximizing circularity and closed loop recycling systems. This is the pillar that I'm going to do a double click into today. So this is about how we can bring as much scrap back into the system and how you do that, both from a production closed loop as well as end of life closed loop systems. The fifth pillar is important, is extremely important, and that is the decarbonization of primary aluminum. So primary aluminum has a high carbon footprint. Our opportunity is to reduce as much primary aluminum in our products as possible. So increasing recycled content, reducing primary is what our unique value proposition is to improve the carbon footprint of our products. So let's take a little deeper dive. So why recycling matters? To give you an idea, globally, Novelis, across our entire portfolio, has an average of 57% of recycled inputs. And why that matters is because using recycled content reduces by 93% less energy versus producing from bauxite or primary bauxite ore. That has an equivalent reduction of 94% less emissions. So any opportunity that we have to increase the recycled content reduces our carbon footprint. And we've actually increased by 30% since 2017. And we're looking every single day on how we can continue to increase this. So let's talk a little bit about the closed loop and end of life. This is a little bit of an eye chart here, so I want to kind of walk you through it. The process starts at mining and smelting, and that is the primary aluminum value chain. Again, we want to minimize, as Novelis, the amount of primary that we put into our products. What we are most interested in is the closed loop, both at the production level, so you can see that we will receive scrap, we roll it, we remelt it, and then send it off to our partners. In this example, I'm just using an auto example, but this is really the same process for each of our sectors that we work in. So we would send our coils with the higher recycled content. They stamp. There is scrap associated with the production, and we have the world's largest closed loop system with Ford Motor Company, and also have massive closed loop systems with most OEMs, and always looking to partner even more. So that comes, we're closing the loop from a production standpoint. Where the biggest opportunity for us is, particularly in the auto industry, is after consumer use. So end of life. Now, you may know you see lots of scrap yards all over, but I'll tell you, while 95% of automotive scrap is recycled, it is downgraded because it is not reused back into the products that they produce. And that is what we are all trying to accomplish. And in order to do that, there are a lot of things that we need to do in order to most effectively collect and sort these alloys, because you can imagine, the Tesla that you drove to work today, or the Jaguar Land Rover, have different alloys because of different performance characteristics. And so when you scrap a car, you have to be able to effectively separate that. And so we have been laser-like focused on how we do that in the most effective way. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But once you do get that alloy or the scrap back that you can use and close that loop, we then are able to put that back into the products that our can manufacturers, our vehicle or OEMs, the building and construction industry, et cetera. So that is really sort of the circular economy, how we are looking at it, and how we're trying to drive more and more circularity so we can maximize the amount of recycled inputs in the products that we sell. Okay, so scrap availability. So how do we get more scrap? And I talked a little bit about the collecting side of things. And so we have several opportunities to do that. One is to expand the closed loop systems that we have, not just with our vehicle or our can customers, but all of our customers, and to get more and more of that scrap back from the production cycle. We also want to improve and increase sortation and separation technologies in order to create the alloys or separate out the alloys that we know we need to put back into the products, and then to develop and expand the end of life ecosystem. And the ecosystem is critical. And when you talk about shifting in paradigms in sort of industrial and manufacturing, it's not easy, right? You're shifting from a very linear model to a circular model, and you have to partner in very intentional ways. And I'll tell you, I've been in sustainability for about 18 years now, driving it from a corporate perspective in all parts of the value chain. And it is difficult to break out of that mindset. And we've talked a lot as sustainability professionals about pre-competitive collaboration and things like that, but very few actually move forward and can do it in a way that results in maximizing the impact. And so what I love about Novelis and why I'm proud to work at Novelis is not only the products that we sell that are high in recycled content, but also the fact that we are willing to develop these kinds of ecosystems that are going to drive continued impact for the products that we sell, and jointly with our customers, our suppliers, and our competitors. And an example of that is a group that we put together called Alu Mobility, and it has all the different actors in the supply chain really setting aside those competitive sort of pieces in order to drive aluminum as an industry and to expand and grow aluminum as the material of choice for the 21st century. So, I'm thrilled to participate in many different types of groups that like that. And Raj is actually going to talk a little bit about the ecosystem that's required to build out the research and development side of things. They do a lot of work to try and drive unique with knowledge partners like Georgia Tech, who we are huge fans of. And but I won't steal Raj's thunder. He's going to share a little bit more around that. So I wanted to give you an example of how we're driving the end-of-life ecosystem. And we're really proud of this opportunity with Sortera. We recently announced this partnership with Sortera. And remember how I said about collecting and being able to separate out the alloys? This is exactly what Sortera is doing. And this is going to unlock a huge amount of aluminum scrap so that we can recycle more and increase the recycled content in the products that we sell. So we are thrilled to have walked with Sortera from a startup, and they've been multiple investors like Breakthrough Energy, Chrysalis Venture Fund, and others. And now that we've got this minority investment as well, we have the ability then to help scale this kind of technology to increase the amount of scrap that is available. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Raj.
Hey, thank you very much, Suzanne.
Raj, let me take a second to introduce you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Raj Gopalaswamy is a distinguished researcher. He's head of the global technology and of new domains at Novelis. A lot of experience touching upon energy reduction, sustainable engineering, artificial intelligence, modeling, and R&D systems. Prior to being at Novelis, he was with Coca-Cola Global Packaging, and he's also in charge of the Novelis Innovation Hub at Georgia Tech. So we're pleased to have you. We look forward to your presentation. Thank you, Raj, for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. McIntyre, and it's great to be here with you all. And thank you, Suzanne, for those kind words. There's lots and lots of rock stars at Novelis, so it's a privilege to work at this company. I'll quickly run through some of this information, and I did see one or two questions come our way, so we can get right to it. So in the R&D organization, like Suzanne mentioned, we work very closely with global sustainability as well as all the sustainability teams in each of our regions, with the operations teams, the EHS teams, and so forth. Our scope is, to keep it kind of tight, is to focus on flat roll products and recycling, as you can see here. And the purpose in the global R&D organization is, as you can see, the keyword is the sustainable differentiated product and process solutions. And I'll focus on, for our customers at an accelerating pace of innovation. So I'll focus on how we do that. And one of the biggest ways to do that is to build these ecosystems and partnerships the right way to take us in the right direction faster. So with that, I think Suzanne, if you can move to the next one. Thank you. So in new domains, we set ourselves a vision to accelerate this impact. So through these collaborative technology innovation and sustained footprint reduction. So what that means is we are not going to be able to do this alone. As you already saw, the recycling supply chain is pretty vast and it's global. We have to be able to collaborate with research institutes like Georgia Tech, with our local utilities, and several other institutes, labs, etc., to bring technology to actually make it work for for the entire recycling supply chain. So that's one of the key visions we set ourselves, and in the process get that sustained footprint reduction. So if you can go to our strategy, it's to focus on exponential innovation through partnerships again. So you'll continuously see these partnerships in everything that we do within the new domains team and R&D, but also within all of our other teams within global R&D. This graph basically shows that we want over time to focus on innovations and technologies that get us that exponential lift. For example, if we are looking at carbon capture, and we'll talk about that, and we also want to catch scientific and technology trends earlier than when they happen. We've also noticed that these trends can become exponential, AI and machine learning being one of them. So with this vision and strategy, how do we execute it? So we have 5 main pillars within the new domains area. Advanced technologies and processes, looking at various ways to reduce energy consumption, advanced product solutions. How can we increase recycled content in our alloys, like Suzanne was talking about? We have a very specific focus on R&D ecosystems. You're going to see that in a minute here. AI and advanced modeling, which can work in all facets of our business. We want to bring that really to work for us in our manufacturing, right in our plants. And erase, which we introduced recently, is energy reduction and sustainable engineering. So I'm going to do a deep dive into erase. So if you go into the next one, so the erase pillar is essentially focused on all initiatives to partner either to partner with any external entities like research institutes and companies, startups, and so on, and bring technologies inside of Novelis to directly apply to our operations, as you can see here. So if you go to the next one, Suzanne, so this should give you an idea of what how erase would work. We do for to establish a circular economy within the Novelis world and within any other world. I would argue that the system also becomes nonlinear. So with that in mind, one key example of an ecosystem is we have been having a very strong strategic partnership with Georgia Tech in various areas. You can see our website here. You can go and explore that in more detail. I work very closely with my counterpart, Professor Shreyas, out of the ME department, and we are engaged in various different projects and programs that help energy reduction and sustainable engineering. The way it would work is we would identify areas to work on, technologies to explore with Suzanne and her team, as well as for example, our North America operations team. bring in the university researchers that could potentially be partners for us, incubate projects within the erase pillar, and then on the funnel on the left, the execution would happen. And while we execute, it would also generate a pipeline of programs, and the cycle continues that way. There are other ecosystem partnerships. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, we announced a net zero lab out of Europe. We work very closely with them, and that lab is basically focused on bringing net zero operations to the facility in Switzerland that we have there. But the technologies that we look at, they're all basically, they could work across globally for us. And I think I'm not able to see the line below that, but essentially there are various other examples of ecosystems. We work with our Novelis Ventures team. Sortera that Suzanne mentioned was directly out of the Ventures team to identify even startups in various areas like carbon capture and so on. So this type of collaborative innovation is the way we believe that is the best way to go forward. So if you can go to the next, the last slide. I want to give you an example of different initiatives here. It's definitely not limited to only these, but we are working in close partnership on several programs with Georgia Tech and with other entities and companies on, how do we source power? How do we utilize that power within our plants? How do we remelt the aluminum and include recycled scrap into the aluminum? How can we maximize that while minimizing the energy consumption? So there's optimization involved there. How can we capture the carbon out of our furnaces that, many of which use natural gas? And how can we avoid in the longer term to even emit any CO2? And then the last one is, of course, look at our entire processes end to end and the materials that we use, connecting back with the end of life and trying to close the loop as much as possible, bringing back as much of the end of life scrap and putting that back into alloys that can go back into either becoming the same alloy or a different alloy. Preferably, if it is a fully closed loop, we would want the same alloy to keep cycling around in the same loop. Scrap handling and how do we manage incoming scrap? How do we trace the scrap? That entire supply chain is quite complex, so we're working on that. And of course, looking at our water consumption, waste management, and several other areas. This is just to give you a flavor of some of the key initiatives within Erase. So with that, I know we have a little bit of time here for Q&A. So I just want to stop here and thanks to Dr. McIntyre and Ani for having us, and look forward to the discussion.
Very good. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Susan. I had wanted to follow up immediately on your presentation, Raj, and if you could tell us a little more about your R&D centers. You of course have one in Atlanta, in Kennesaw, Georgia, which is where you're located. But you have one in Valais, Switzerland, and then two more, I believe. If you could tell us a little more about the choice of the location in R&D centers, which is of course a question in terms of multinational enterprise management, but what each of those centers might be focusing on, and how you build partnerships, public-private sector partnerships, which is of the essence for implementation of the UN SDGs as a principle, as an operating principle.
Yeah, I can go real quick first, and I'll give it to Suzanne as well. I'm sure she'll want to add on the UN part. So in R&D, global R&D, we are truly global. So we have one of our key R&D centers in Kennesaw, right here in Atlanta. There is another R&D center, we call it R&D Europe, which is out of Scheller in Switzerland. It's close to Geneva. And another center, recently it's in the process of moving to Ulsan in South Korea. But there are satellite centers, I would say, in Zhenjiang and as well as in Shanghai in China. Europe actually has several satellite centers. There's one located in Koblenz, along with our pretty big aerospace and automotive plant there, as well as in Göttingen. We have also another operations plant. The R&D center is located right inside the plant, and of course we have what we call customer solution centers, where we work very closely with customers. Here in Novi in Michigan, as well as in out of Stuttgart in Europe, and Zhenjiang in China, as well as we are in the process of doing something in Sao Paulo in Brazil. So it's quite a global, let's say, an R&D global ecosystem. So we collaborate with all of them in various areas, like you were pointing out, Dr. McIntyre, and each of these areas are focused on their local, how to get to net zero for their local operations, right? That's what they are geared to deliver. However, we leverage each other's strengths and figure out, for example, if the net zero lab in Valais is looking at blue hydrogen sources, we would take that technology and see how we can make that happen with utilities right here in Georgia. So, or in Kentucky or in New York, where we have significant operations. So that's how it would work. It's like a global and local collaborative model. Suzanne, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it beautifully. I just want to reiterate that the Net Zero Lab is really an opportunity for us to not just do something good in Valais, but the scale and possibilities that can come out of an opportunity like that is remarkable. So, I mean, having folks like Raj and a huge team that is driving these kinds of efforts is exactly what we need to be doing, together with knowledge partners and all of the other folks that we've mentioned, in part of driving and creating those ecosystems. So, really, really proud of the work that Novelis is doing to try and drive that work.
Follow-up question from one of the member of the audience. Are there any R&D centers in India where the potential for recycling is tremendous? Either of you can take it, Raj or Susan.
Yeah. So I did forget to mention that one of the ecosystem partnerships and initiatives ongoing. So Aditya Birla Group is the parent of Hindalco, which also is the parent of Novelis. So there is a pretty large ABSTC, Aditya Birla Science and Technology Center in Mumbai. We work very closely with them. I was in fact in Mumbai just a few weeks ago, meeting with folks there, with the leaders over there, and we are trying to figure out. There are a few things here that in some of the areas that I mentioned, carbon capture, energy consumption, where within the Aditya Birla Group, there are over 35, 36 companies. We collaborate with each other, looking at, if we capture our CO2, can we give it to somebody that can use that CO2 or convert it and use it for their purpose? That's just one of the examples, but there might be technologies that somebody in the cement side could be using, for example, sequestration or plugging CO2 into concrete, that we might be able to partner with. So all of those conversations are ongoing, some of which are in active discussions, some of which are active projects as well. So it is a tight collaboration there.
Yes, I can see that. I had forgotten the link to Hindalco, and of course you would be well positioned in India to really move forward the research enterprise operation. I had a question for Susan, if I may. You mentioned something very important, changing the mindset. And I would say then, what are some of the ingredients you would consider critical to really change the mindset and make the enterprise as a whole? Obviously, Novelis is well involved in that, but you're a model, but other companies, what is required on the part of the corporation to change that mindset towards net zero or achieving other UN SDG related goals?
That is an absolutely fantastic question, and something that I have been working on over the last 6 months at Novelis on how we do that. And one of the UN compact reports that came out talked about some of those ingredients, and it was as a result of many different interviews, one of which I was able to participate in, on the kinds of mindset shifts, leadership capabilities, et cetera, that would be required to enable SDGs being come to fruition. And so we've adopted and working on 3 of those particular ingredients, as you call them. One is thinking in systems. In corporate America, we tend to operate in very tight silos, and we do not always think about the system. And so when I'm sometimes in meetings, I will say, is the system in the room? So the decisions that I make have an impact on Raj and his team, and then have an impact on operations. And so we have to think in these kinds of systems and to really acknowledge, and that is where the second principle comes in, is stakeholder inclusion. It's not just engagement. It has to be inclusive. You have to invite them in, all different kinds of stakeholders, and to include them in the different decisions, and to understand not just what's happening within the system within your business, but the system in the broader sense, right? The third component is long-term thinking, and this is and has been and will continue to be a challenge for businesses, particularly public ones, who have quarterly, very short-term mindsets and metrics and performance to continue to meet. And even though we are a wholly owned subsidiary of Hindalco is listed, and so our stakeholders are very interested in not only the short-term impacts, but also how we are positioning ourselves in order to be most effective and have a long-term business value proposition. And what's so interesting about that is ESG has just absolutely exploded. And so when your investors and bondholders are interested, your CEOs, your CFOs, your CTOs, everybody becomes very interested. So it's not just about short-term, it has to be long-term thinking, stakeholder inclusion, and thinking in systems is, I think, the 3 key ingredients that are going to enable us to meet our internal goals in support of UN SDGs.
Thank you, Susan. This is a really very good overview of how to dive in and really start affecting change. I would follow up, because the mindset change also includes diversity within the company, and we are very sensitive to that at Georgia Tech. I guess you are, to some extent, a chemical engineering, mechanical engineering oriented kind of operation. That is to say, a lot of your recruits would come from that particular mindset, which is changing. For us, we're finding more and more females as engineers, as first-class engineers. Could you tell us a little more about that? I know several in our audiences have expressed interest in knowing what Novelis is doing to really promote diversity at large.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have, I mentioned earlier, some specific goals that will focus both on women in leadership as well as increasing the representation of women in technical roles. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm an engineer myself. I was, one of 3 that graduated in, I won't tell you when, several years ago, but I think that has shifted significantly, and we are looking to, and you have to be intentional about reaching out and finding institutions like a Georgia Tech who also has alignment of those values, and to use those as a pipeline and work. Our HR team is really focused on partnering with different institutions and local entities that do have, supporting STEM, and particularly women in STEM. And so, we are focused on those aspects to meet and exceed those goals. And I think that we become better when we diversify, and we know that, we've seen it. There's all kinds of research on it. And so we want to make sure that we continue to build Novelis in a way that allows us and positions us to be the most successful in the short and long term. And D&I is part of that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Raj, did you want to add something to that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at, just to give you some basic idea, if you look at Kennesaw, the proportion of the gender diversity, the proportion of women in Kennesaw has been steadily increasing. And coming back to Georgia Tech, we are working closely with Shreyas and the Georgia Tech team, and who would be partnering with our talent acquisition team to be able to do everything that Suzanne was talking about. And we want to be able to do that everywhere, not just in Atlanta with Georgia Tech, right? Because some of the other things to keep in mind for us, for Novelis, is the plant operations. A lot of people probably do not realize that. You would think that it's melting aluminum and it's just rolling the sheet and getting it out the door. But there's so much of engineering and technology involved there. And it's got to be super exciting for engineers and scientists to come and actually be part of it. And it's a very rewarding experience. So we are seeing a lot of interest from women candidates going forward, and we'll be very proactive in that area.
Thank you very much. We have run out of time. Susan, thank you so much. Raj also, we look forward to working with you. We hope you can participate in the short roundtable at 12. Your input would be essential to really make the discussion come to life. I turn it over to my colleague, Ani, for the next session, and do thank our participants for their kind involvement and sharing their wisdom.